So let me share my screen with you so that we can continue with our study of the book Alert by Juana de Angelis. And we are in lesson 50 today. We only have 10 more to go to finish the book. And it's about inner renewal, which is a very important subject for us all the time, because we remember that this is the main goal of our existence, is for us, through the experiences that we have, the opportunities we have in life, to try to improve ourselves, to renew ourselves. Of course, if this is the case, it indicates that there is always room for improvement, right? And we come from incarnations where we knew even less than we know today. And because of that, our choices were not so good in many occasions. That's why, in a way, we are never, or should never be, that much curious about our position and our doings in past existences, because they are going to let us down. We were not, absolutely not better than we were today. And from that, we already know that there is much for us to work and to improve. And this is one of the things that we mention already when we are talking about the main objective of Juana de Angelis and her books, and this one specifically as well, to bring us concepts, to alert us as to things and situations and decisions, choices that can actually improve our way of living, improve ourselves as a spirit, which is the main goal that we have. The aim of reincarnation, as we can see in the Spirit's book, there is one question that talks about this. What is the aim of incarnation? And it's most of all exactly to for us to have this opportunity of start doing better. It's very much like we do things in life. You start dedicating yourself to something, and of course, with time and with dedication, it's only going to get better. The same thing is with us. It's like we are chiseling our spirit, ourselves, and becoming each time more luminous. So let us start with uh, the comments on Juana de Angelis. The empathy of a person with an evangelical message is often revealed through the attachment of objects and material values. Fraternal generosity in the form of gifts constitute a sign of understanding of the human duties towards one another. However, many of those who enlarge their monetized resources, even if encompassed by wholesome intentions, impose conditions, formulate demands, which minimize the meaning of their assistance and at times humiliate the beneficiaries. So, first, she starts talking about our position in terms of values in life. Where are we when we think about the true values of life? Are we thinking about spirituality, about this inner renewal, or are we thinking about more the material aspect of life? That's why she says that even when we sometimes exercise this fraternal generosity, it doesn't mean necessarily that we are doing that in the best way possible, because we may be, like she says here, be imposing conditions, formulated demands, minimizing the meaning of assistance, and many times humiliating people that we are serving. And when we are talking about that, it's, it's not just about money. It can be about a job. It can be about, a position. It's everything that is related to material values that can, even when we position ourselves in terms of a conversation with a friend that we see that is in a difficult position, and that is requiring or in need of our understanding and tolerance, many times we can be very cruel with our comments. And so and sometimes, people do that, justifying to themselves that, I'm with the side of the truth, and we go there and we poke the, the wound that is already open. And so all of this, sometimes, we do that, and we are not serving, we're not having or thinking about this empathy that Joana de Angelis is saying here, in terms of being generous with, our way of positioning ourselves in relation to others as well, not only bestowing money or positions or jobs, but also in terms of how we relate to others. Any comments or questions so far?
I volunteer with the Red Cross for the
Yeah.
mental health work, and sometimes, if there's a fire or a hurricane, I'll
Mhm.
respond and volunteer to help out. And I've been doing this for about a decade or so. And at first, I was really shocked because I observed like a lot of the volunteers treating the clients like really unkindly. And these are
Mhm.
folks who just lost their home in a fire or a hurricane. And I was really shocked that like a lot of volunteers were really kind of like condescending.
Mhm.
And it's just really, and I certainly tried to be the most kind and thoughtful and empathetic I can be, and some people really didn't seem to have that agenda. They kind of were in a position of power, privilege, and really kind of held it over people's heads. And I was just really sad to see that happening. And I'm sure I do that sometimes as well. I'm sure that I'm not always the best I can be too, but I think it's a really important message in this lesson.
Yeah, that's very interesting, that you're saying, because I remember, there was a fire here in a condo in New Jersey, in a building, and I had a friend that lived there, and she literally lost everything. Of course, thank God that night that her two sons were out, and her husband managed to leave the building. But she was saying, we lost everything. We lost the pictures of the family. And I can only imagine that sometimes, when people will go and attend, like you're saying, will say, oh, you should be happy already that you are alive, right? And why are you complaining about losing photos or something? But we don't know the emotional value of things to people, and how people respond also in terms of, being facing this shock, right, of literally, you just have the clothes that you're wearing right now, right? Sometimes not even that, you're on your your pajamas, right, depending on where it is. And this is very important, and I really always like to stress that we tend to measure um, others' problems by our ability of dealing with them. And each one of us have a different ability. Of course, thinking about us that are, trying to expand our understanding of life, immortal life, all of that, it's it's only natural that we would think that we have more possibilities of dealing with the difficulties of life. But not everyone will have it. And it's not because we are having this possibility that we will say as well that it should be an obligation. It's a working process. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, along with empathy, I think we ought to try to practice compassion as well.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing about the compassion. That's why it's interesting when she says here, depending on how much we are tending to evangelical message here means a path to spirituality. How much we are going through this path is going to review the value and the understanding that we are having in terms of the important things in life. um, yeah, I can read. Yes, Orlando Buddhism talks a lot about detachment and helps us in this sense as well. So let's go into the next one. Christian knowledge, when it penetrates the essence of a being, becomes the light that conquers resistances of selfish shadows that persist in enduring. As a result, it imposes the need for inner renewal, overcoming the passions that plague the character and torment the feelings. And this is one of the main difficulties we will have when we are before spirituality. And please do remember that I like very much to use the word spirituality, because of course we are talking about spiritism here as well. But we don't, it is not only spiritism that is inviting us to this journey of spirituality and to the work of inner transformation and all of that, trying to enlighten us as with this perspective of being immortal beings, and also even sometimes in a few of them reincarnation. So here, regardless of the path that we as individual has chosen, in my case, I chose spiritism, but regardless of the path we are choosing, and even if it's more than one, the thing is, the more we go in this path, the more we unveil, so to say, the secrets of the creation of the universe, the more we will feel the urge to change. But sometimes this urge may be too much for people, and that's why we see many people that start in this path giving up, because you will not be able, in face of all this information, of all this understanding, to just live life the way we used to live before all that. It changes our perspective, our understanding completely. And it's not an easy transition. That is the reason why all this this the 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 philosophies, religions, doctrines that lead us to this path of spirituality, the followers, the practitioners, they will come to a point that they will have to decide, even if it's baby steps, moving forward as in the rhythm that we can, but it still requires you to be leaving behind your old self and working on your new self. Like I say sometimes, even when we think in terms of ecology, how much we have to care about our planet, for instance. I mean, before my understanding of reincarnation, I could say I couldn't care less about the world. If I'm going to have water in 50 years or not, I'll be long gone, right? Even if I'm worried about my children, my grandchildren, yeah, it's their problem. They will have to find a way. We had our difficulties. They will have theirs, and they will find a way. No, now, I mean, we know that we are going to be our grandchildren or great grandchildren. We will be back, and now, I'll have to deal with the mess that I'm doing now. I'm going to be the one suffering the consequences of my inconsequence, right? So it changes completely. I can no longer be oblivious to this understanding, to this information. And it is hard because we were not used a few years ago to, having to have three or four garbage bins in your home, right? One for compost, one for plastic, one for metal, one for paper. Now, uh, every time you don't do that, something in the back of your mind saying, I'm affecting the ocean, I'm killing the fish, I'm affecting the planet Earth. So and this is why, and many people ask us, why don't we have more people dedicating themselves to that? Because it's hard, this inner renewal, in terms of understanding, accepting this as a reality, and which is harder, it's even harder, is to really adapt and change ourselves to this new reality. Comments, questions? So I'll go to the next one. To overcome the evil inclinations and submit the dissolving tendencies, this is the field of silent and difficult work that cannot be marginalized. In order to achieve positive results, the undertaking demands discipline and firm resolution, whose resistance is drawn from the study of the Master's doctrine, from prayer and meditation, with the constant attitude of charity that makes the treasures lying in the spirit blossom. Um, so, continuing what we were saying, now we face ourselves before the reality of who we are. Now, things that were considered normal because everyone is doing that, my conscious no longer accepts this. It's no longer normal for me, for my values, my personal values. And so to start going on a journey to change all of that requires a lot of commitment on our part, like it says here, discipline, resolution. Uh, why this study of the teachings of Jesus? Because we again, every time we say we are here not necessarily worshiping the man, but actually paying attention to the values and examples that the man Jesus brought to us, that it is a model for us to, if we want to succeed in going through this inner renewal, improvement ourselves as well. So we all know about the value of prayer. Again, why do we pray? Because we want to be pleasing God, or repeating, this memorized words that doesn't touch our hearts and our minds. No, it's not that. It's I'm praying, or like, when Jeff said, when you go out and you dedicate a few hours of your week to help others, this is the best pleasing prayer. Remember that passage from Jesus that he says something like, before uh, going to temples, to church, and to deposit, things to God, because at that time they used to do that. They would take even animals to please God. He says you should leave your offer here and go reconcile with your brothers and sisters. So it is much more important to, in this new understanding, in the sense of pleasing the divinity, or offering something. What we are offering in terms of love and forgiveness and compassion, like Marilyn said. So uh, this is why she says, like, a constant attitude of charity, uh, even towards ourselves, because this is something that I always like to mention, to repeat. Uh, we already have an ideal, right? Maybe we are still shaping, of course, this ideal, but we already have something in mind where we want to be, or what we want actually be. But we have to understand that it's a process. Okay, I want to be like Jesus, but it's not going to happen overnight. And it will require countless incarnation for me to be like Jesus. So what am I going to do now? Give up because it's too hard, too much work? Or just, accepting that to my level, every little victory, accomplishments, it should be celebrated. And like I say, we put on our mind to something, to a purpose. We fail today, I'm going to continue trying to do that tomorrow. And this is the reason why we are what we are today, because we already had situations like that in the past, but we have persisted, and today we are better than we were before. But it's hard work. And this is why we were saying at the beginning, it is so hard to see people committing to that, because it's it's hard to do it, and they accommodate to what we see around us. But we are in a period of transition, and we can no longer delay this. Um, and to the question addressed by Orlando here, how we define evil, it's always like we define the same thing when we define darkness. Is evil is ignorance. Uh, is more, lack of knowledge, lack of understanding than anything else. You see, we can say that, let's say, not judging or anything, but let's say that, we'll say cigarettes are evil, okay, because it kills you. Science is telling you now that, you are all constantly injecting in your body things that are very damaging to you. But before, when it started, I don't know, in the 1920s, I don't know exactly when it became more fashion to smoke. People had no clue about that. So a lot of people died of lung cancer or of things like that. But you will say or call them evil because of that. No, evil is a very heavy word, but it's, sometimes it's still a word that we have to include in our studies, in our vocabulary. But we cannot say that they were evil. Uh, there was just lack of knowledge. The same thing, like, since I just returned from vacation, this sunscreen. 50 years ago, or even less, 40 years ago, there was no sunscreen, to protect us from the sun. And now we have a whole generation dealing with skin cancer. Right now we know. And now I have a choice. Now you have a choice. When you deviate from the choice of, now it's science and statistics attesting that, there are things that are very damaging to you, then we will make a choice. But in most cases, is this evil, in many cases, this evil also is just a lack of knowledge and acceptance. In the examples we gave, we didn't have the knowledge. Now we have the knowledge, but it depends on your acceptance to follow them through. So light, and that's why, the light of enlightenment, the light that dissipates darkness, is always the word that we are going to be using as being you know the uh, the other side of what is negative and what is dark, so to say. Okay, so let's read another one. Without the firm decision of inner renewal, the person becomes the plaything of clashing forces against which one is forced to fight. It is an arduous and time consuming battle because its objective is to annul the effect of unfortunate habits fixed in the organism of the individual for ages. There is even this expression, right? Old habits die hard. But they don't say that they cannot die, right? They just say that die hard. It requires us a lot of commitment. And everything that I mentioned when we started is the clashing forces. I know this is the best way to do things. But I also have offered to me the easiest way, or what I think it is going to be easier. So it's very much like when Jesus would used to say, there is the large door and the narrow door. The narrow door, there is no room for us with all our imperfections to go through. We have to leave the imperfections behind in order to be able to go through this narrow door, this narrow path. But it's easier if I don't have to do all the work. And this is when sometimes, this other saying that we have, that misery loves company, that we have so many people that will be motivating us much more to the old ways that not necessarily work in our advantage, then actually motivating us to move forward. Like we can say, we see a friend going through this process of spirituality. We could say, wow, that's wonderful. I wish I had your determination, your faith, but go ahead, because one day I'm going to inspire my change in your example. No, normally what we do is, oh, don't be silly, you know. You want to be the weirdo in the group, or why do you want to be different, or you're the the one that is always bringing this all those new things to our attention. No, this is normally what we do. We criticize, we do not motivate others to do that. And sometimes, and this is how we justify our non-action in terms of doing what we have to do. Like she says here, it's arduous, it's time-consuming battle, because to get rid of these habits that have been with us from millennia, we're just starting. Comments, questions?
I really like that expression, the plaything of clashing forces. I think
Yeah.
that's such a beautiful description of, like, I know in times in my life when I've had to make major changes, especially thinking about a decade or so ago as I was facing addiction. It was like
Mhm.
there was an angel in one corner and one ear and the
Yeah.
devil in the other. And I would feed one and then feed the other. And it's a horrible
Yeah.
conflict to live through as I make change, and I just really, I like that expression, the plaything of clashing forces.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it feels like. Yeah.
That's true. Do you know that story about there are, like, two wolves that live inside of us, the good one and the bad one, and which one is you? Is going to win this battle, the one that you are going to feed. So even without thinking about external forces, us ourselves is the same thing. Our conscience, you already know enough. Our conscience will constantly, you know come to our rescue in terms of trying to lead us through the positive forces. But then it depends on how we are going to feed our inner beasts, the good ones and the bad ones, right? But yeah, that's sometimes how we feel, like we were saying before. Sometimes, we still look for the shortcuts, for the easy way, and this never happens, never works, never works. It's unfortunately it is a process, and it's all because we may have the facade of being good, but like I said, it comes to a point where you have to act more on your instincts, and then you will see if it was just a facade of being good and gentle, or let's take an example. You pick us in a bad day. you know you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Someone comes to you and say a little something, and you already exploded. From where does this explosion come from? You still are not in control, because when you achieve something. I remember there was this person that she says this expression of, I lost my patience. I mean, whether you have it or not, you cannot lose patience. Where is my patience? Right? Whether you have it or not. Yes, we understand that there will be situations that will trigger more a response, but you're still in the process of achieving all that. Okay, let's go to the next one. This disposition must be supported by humility, which is the cell matter for these types of commitments. The humility here, the humbleness here means I have to accept that there is still a lot to be done, improve it in relation to myself. If I still want to make believe that there is nothing wrong with me because my pride will not accept that, then it's you are already losing your battle from the start. So humility discourages any force of violence and crime. It can anesthetize the effects of evil and prove the excellence of goodness. Its exercise produces optimal results, favoring the sowing of elevated objectives as well as their fecundation and in the lens of feeling. So when we, through humility, are true to ourselves to really analyze who we are, what has to be done, it is already a step forward in this process. Okay, and the point here is never to make us feel bad because we still are not capable of doing this or that. We still have, this personality trait that is really not good. No, it's, and we have to understand that it has to be this process. It has to be part of our process, because otherwise we will not be able to succeed. And this is the main point for us. First, having this humility, the courage to look who we are and what has to be done. And second, understanding that, okay, now I know. Now the work begins. Baby steps, but the work begins. And in no way, because this is again uh, uh, a recipe for failure, to become dismayed by the realizations of who I really am and how much far away I am from, being a good model of a good citizen. No, we should never think like this. It's just okay, tackling the problem as we can for the moment. Free will, yes, it's responsible for what happens of good and bad in our lives. Uh, and the thing is, like I said, this is why it is so hard, and we are talking about periods of transition, ourselves transitioning, because when I thought that I could be the result of fate, I mean, I had no responsibility. It was not up to me. It was up to, if you don't believe in God, a major force, or I don't know, But now that I know that it is the result of my actions, of my thoughts, of who I am. Like I said, it is bad in a one way, because it was much easier when I could blame anyone else but myself. But on the other hand, now knowing that I'm not the object of fate, or, a plaything of clashing forces, right? I know that I'm in control. So I can make the choice. The problem here, like we said, is that it's not so easy, because for the force of habit, and it's much more comfortable for us is still to go through the old ways, uh, and and that's the situation. But knowing that it depends on me, um, Again, I can make an effort now because I want better results for my present and definitely for the future. Okay, any comments or questions more?
Yeah, sometimes I can be so busy, forgiving other people for what I perceive as things they've done to me. But I found just recently that if you forgive yourself, it's very liberating.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel so much lighter inside.
Yes, that's exactly it, Marlene. And you see, I was thinking about that expression of Jesus in terms when he was healing, people. He would say, "Go and sing," or "No more," or "Air, no more." Right? Uh, it's exactly the same thing for us today. We are through this knowledge and understanding being healed from the old concepts that would lead us to trouble, to difficulties, to pain, to suffering. So it is this knowledge, this understanding, it is a process of healing. Of we are bestowed, with something that can heal us. Now it is up to us to continue in this path that is going to help us. So there is no reason why we should delay ourselves in process of guilty and not forgiving ourselves. It was a byproduct of ignorance. And now that we are enlightening ourselves, we have more possibilities. We have new possibilities. So this is what we will be, we'll be doing. And the process, like you said, the self-healing is liberating. The self-forgiveness is liberating, absolutely liberating. But now, like Jesus said, go and don't do that anymore. And you will be okay. You will feel rid of everything that was affecting you before, preventing you to be in peace and harmony. Okay, let's go to the last one. Perhaps the program of inner renewal is not noticeable to the careless observation of others. Those, however, who dedicate themselves to the liberating commitment discovers happiness and peace, which become a part of their life, emulating them to continue the effort through which they elevate themselves. How many, however, are concerned with the outward demonstration of their ties to Jesus, proceeding irritated and dissatisfied, and complaining because of the absence of Christ's Spirit that should reveal itself in them as love and inner harmony. So the image that was coming to my mind is like when we plant a seed. Okay. And according to how we are going to be helping in the development of this seed, we can make an analogy with ourselves. While the seed is there, receiving the necessary nourishment through light, through fertilizers, through water, the rain, everything else, we barely notice that the seed is thriving end will come about becoming, a little plant, big plant, a tree, fruits, etc. So, and we are exactly in this process, in this moment in our lives, where we are still this seed that some of them will become dry because they are not going to be nourishing. And we are nourishing our seeds, but people from the outside is not is not necessarily seeing what is happening because it's still very much related. It's still buried in the inner self. But even when it is in those stages, like Juana de Angelis is telling us here, it doesn't mean because we have not flourished yet, it doesn't mean that we are not already feeling liberated, more in peace, feeling more happiness. Because of course, a seed that is nourished is very happy, right? Although it's not showing. Uh, Other people, may be using, because they don't want to do this work of hydrating and working, they will try to be to believe that by doing this outward work, like, I'll go to the temple or to the church, I don't know, 4 times a week and do this and that. But if they are not working with their inner selves, they are not going to be changing, right? So this is why Juana de Angelis, in this sense, invites us to this journey of realization, understanding that, no pain, no gain. All the process of removing old habits, of coming to the realization of, you know, the journey, the work that has to be done, uh, with the humility, like she says, it's not an easy one, but it's going to become each time easier because the more we grow, the more we learn, the more we will be feeling this inner peace, happiness. It will become part of ourselves, and everything is going to be easier with time in all this process. So, any comments or questions at this point? The thing is, let's roll up our sleeves, right? And do what we have to do. Instead of being like, spoiled children that, oh, now I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, right? I would just, yeah. The sooner we accept it, the better it's going to be for ourselves. And the good thing is we will see the results much sooner than we anticipate. Even sometimes, like we say here, we with this pandemic, everyone, of course, is suffering, is going through so much. But all this understanding and this certainty that we have, it makes it easier, right? We know that there is a purpose. We can see the blessings in disguise. We expand the uh, the assessment we will have in why are we going through all that. So like I said, it's even when we think about what we have now and what we can and how we can feel and live our lives, it's so much better. Okay. All right.